Hey, what's up everybody, Stammer35 here, and I think it's time to talk about canceled video games. Canceled games is a subject that has always fascinated me and made me sad at the same time. It's fascinating because you end up going down an absolute rabbit hole of browsing the canceled games graveyard. Some games seem to have this alluring potential to them. Some games seem extremely ambitious, and some other games just outright look like they may have been pretty cool. The sadness hits when you realize you'll never be able to play these games. Whatever screenshots and videos that are available are all you'll ever get of the game, only having your thoughts and imaginations of what the game could have been like. And even if a prototype gets released, it's still not the full complete experience. Now, this video is actually a sequel to a previous video I made of this same subject. So if you missed that video, pause this one and go check it out. I'll see you when you get back. And with that out of the way, it's time for me to talk about 6 more canceled games I really wish got released. Dragonkind is a fantasy adventure game that was being developed by Trilunar for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2002. The game takes place in the land of Vermilion and follows a young man by the name of Grail. Grail has the ability to control the power of dragons. This mysterious ability sets Grail on a series of adventures that carry him across the world and ultimately to a final conclusion that answers questions about his past and his role in the future of this world. Along the way, he will encounter unique friends and enemies with unique personalities such as the likes of crafty rogues, roguish sea pirates, and piratical warlords, as noted in the list of the game's key features. Also denoted by the game's key features are extensive 3D lands with secret areas and special locations, great battles of sword and strategy that increase in difficulty as you, as Grail, become stronger, an open game world that allows for a huge degree of non-linear gameplay with quest objectives to complete, along with a lot of other features. By the sound of it, Dragonkind seemed like quite the ambitious game. It was officially revealed on April 2nd, 2002. However, unfortunately, the game's cancellation was announced on August 27, 2002, 4 months after its reveal. The announcement was posted on Trilunar's website and appears to state that the company ran out of money to continue development on the game and keep their studio open. Finding out about this game was interesting and unfortunate at the same time. Reading about the plans the developers had for this game, it sounded like it would have been a really cool, fun, and ambitious game. One thing that really draws me to this game, other than the concept, is the art style and character designs. I just love the looks of these characters and environments. They are what really captured my eye and pulled me into wanting to find out more about this game when I was scrolling through the images of it. And with the art being done by the talented comic book artist Joe Madureira, I probably butchered that man's name, my bad. It's no wonder that the look of the game draws you in. The devs had goals of making the game look like a real-time playable 3D comic book. I just love looking through these sketches, concept art, and 3D renders of these characters. They look so cool. Looking through these is making me really wish that this game had came out, just to see these characters in action. I definitely would have wanted this game back in the day had it came out and I was aware of it. Or, if I had missed out on the game then, I definitely would be seeking it out to play nowadays. Alice Asylum was planned to be the third installment in the American McGee Alice series. The Alice games revolve around title character Alice Little as she deals with the trauma of losing her family in a house fire and being submitted to an insane asylum as her sanity takes a hit after the event. Due to her deteriorated mental state, Alice traverses through a dark, devious, and twisted macabre version of Wonderland. The gameplay of the Alice games consists of 3D platforming, combat, and some puzzle-solving elements alongside a gothic horror backdrop. Alice Asylum was American McGee's proposal for the third game in the series and a sequel to Madness Returns. In 2017, McGee announced that he had been working on illustrations and plans for Asylum. Sometime later, he launched a crowdfunding campaign to raise money to begin shaping the game. Over the next few years, McGee and his artists worked on concepts of the game while showing their work and taking feedback from the fans through Patreon and live streams. Work and progress were going well with consistent updates and healthy Patreon support. McGee even stated that legal proceedings were going well too. Fast forward 5 years later, and on April 7th, 2023, McGee announced via his Patreon that EA had decided to pass on the project, citing internal analysis of the IP, market conditions, and the details of the production proposal. Along with this announcement, McGee also announced his retirement from game development altogether. Considering all of the time, effort, money, work, and passion he put into this, only to be shut down in the end, I don't really blame him. While I do hope that Mr. McGee is enjoying his life and retirement, I wish we had at least gotten this last adventure for Alice. It really sucked to hear the news of this game's cancellation, as I love Alice Madness Returns. I bought the game when it originally came out because it looked interesting, and I do remember seeing the original Alice game somewhere back in the day. I thought it looked cool, but I don't really play games on the computer, so I never wound up playing it. So when I learned about Madness Returns and how it was a sequel to that game, I decided to get it. Plus, it coming with a download of the original game as a bonus was a nice plus too. I fell in love with this game. I love Alice's character and design. I love how dark, twisted, and gritty the world of Wonderland is portrayed. I enjoy the game's soundtrack and the look of the worlds. I really like how the game doesn't shy away from dark, mature, twisted themes. The combat is fun, the platforming is solid. It's a little bit floaty because Alice has a triple jump and she can glide over chasms and stuff, but it's not floaty in a bad way or anything. Like I said, it's pretty solid platforming. I like all the characters and their designs. I like some of the enemy designs. I just really enjoy this game. I've played through it from beginning to end a few times. Alice Madness Returns is legitimately one of my favorite games of the 7th generation of consoles, and the original Alice game that came with it is fun, and I enjoyed that game as well. I just really love this twisted series. So to hear that EA slapped the pitch for this game down really sucks to see, as I was really looking forward to this next installment and finding out what happens to Alice next. I even have the digital Alice Asylum Design Bible, which is a badass book that details everything planned about the game, including story beats, conceptual gameplay, outlines, concept art, dress ideas, and tons more. It seems this is as much as fans of Alice are going to get for the foreseeable future. Well, there is that planned Alice TV series that seems to still be in the works, but as for the video game front, it seems this is where Alice's descent into madness comes to a close. Beyond Good and Evil 2 was supposed to be the next installment to Beyond Good and Evil and take players in the next step in Jade and Paige's adventure. Now, before you start raising any eyebrows, this is not talking about the rebooted prequel Beyond Good and Evil 2, which at the time of this writing is still in development. This spot is for the original concept sequel of Beyond Good and Evil 2 that was originally released in 2008. This version was meant to be a direct sequel to the first game from 2003. Little is known about the finer details of this specific version of the game. All we have to go off of from this version is the original teaser trailer and various leaked videos and screenshots along with some concept art. I remember seeing the original Beyond Good and Evil on store shelves numerous times in game stores back in the day, but I never got around to playing it myself. It wasn't until the HD release of the game in 2011 on the PS3 that I got the opportunity to play the game, and at first I wasn't really feeling it actually. I don't remember what or why, but I played a bit of the game and then just stopped playing it. It wasn't until sometime in 2020 that I decided to go back to the game and try it again. And this time I played the game all the way through and I beat it. And overall, I enjoyed it. I like Jade and Paige as characters. I like the game's world and setting. I like the game's characters and designs. The music in the game is really good, and the photography mechanic was nice as well. Minus the game's final boss, I wound up enjoying my second attempt at Beyond Good and Evil. This version of the game being cancelled is very unfortunate to me, because due to how the first Beyond Good and Evil ended, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything about the ending, but due to how the game ended, I'm really curious to see what happens to the people involved. I really want to see where the story takes these characters next and what they're going to get up to in the next game. And I'm also curious about a certain someone as well. If you've beaten the game, you know who I'm talking about. And the thing that pisses me off about the current Good and Evil 2 is that they have rebooted its direction and now it's meant to be a prequel instead of a sequel. Now, like I said, I'm really into finding out what happens to the characters in the first game, so I really have no desire to see a prequel. They could have just saved that for another time. Give me that sequel. And I question if I'll bother to play this game if it ever releases anyway. Like, yeah, some of the ideas for the game sound cool, and the footage we've seen of the game so far does look pretty impressive, but I want my sequel. For a few years now, I've actually been wanting Michel Ancel to take the original plans for the Beyond Good and Evil sequel and turn it into either a book or a graphic novel. I'll take either one, and if he did that, I'd for sure buy it. I just want closure for these characters. And also, while gathering the information for this segment of the video, I came across the fact that Jade's original voice actress, Jodie Forrest, had passed away in 2017, so that may be another reason why we may not be seeing a direct sequel to Beyond Good and Evil. So rest in peace to her. Illbleed was a survival horror game in which players control Eriko Christie as she navigates her way through various haunted house attractions and a horror-themed amusement park in search of her missing friends. The gameplay consisted of trying to preemptively detect and neutralize potential traps and scares that could harm or frighten Eriko to death. Now, if you know anything about relatively obscure horror games or this game, you may be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, what is this StepMat guy talking about? Illbleed did get a release on the Dreamcast in 2001. And yes, you are right. However, that's not the version I'm talking about in this video. The version I'm talking about is a planned, cancelled, original Xbox port of this game. Yes, Illbleed was meant to see a port to the OG Xbox back in the day, an enhanced one at that. In fact, another similarly relatively obscure Dreamcast horror game was also meant to get an original Xbox port, that game being Blue Stinger, whose planned enhanced port was also cancelled. Actually, these two games were originally part of a plan to port some Dreamcast titles to the original Xbox through a deal that was struck up between Sega and CoolNet in December of 2002. This deal was to see ports of Rent a Hero No. 1, Illbleed, Blue Stinger, and Dynamite Deca 2 all come to the original Xbox. Of these planned releases, only Rent a Hero saw the light of day, and even then, that was only in Japan, as a planned English localization was scrapped at some point. It's really unfortunate that Illbleed, as well as the other games, didn't get a chance to grace the Xbox, with the original Xbox often being affectionately referred to as the Dreamcast 2, along with other Dreamcast games or games that were originally meant for the Dreamcast getting put onto the system. These games would have felt right at home on the Xbox. And I really wish Illbleed, along with these other games as well, had not been cancelled and gotten a release. And to add further insult to injury, it's been stated that the Illbleed port was about 90% completed. I found out about Illbleed thanks to the guys over at Game Informer and their super replay of it they did some years back. I had never seen or even heard of the game before then, so I didn't know what to expect when watching it. I watched the whole super replay from beginning to end, and I absolutely loved it. By the end of their playthrough, I loved just everything about the game. I love the atmosphere of this game. I love just how weird and insane the game is. I love the characters. I love the references to the developer's previous game, Blue Stinger. The gameplay is unique and pretty interesting. This is just an awesome game. I've watched a couple different playthroughs of this game over the years. I've never even played it myself, but I just love this game. I really wish this Xbox port had come to fruition, because after finding out about this game, and these years later getting into collecting for the original Xbox, I absolutely would either already have this game in my collection by now, or it'd definitely be on my to buy list. I mean, experiencing a game secondhand is one thing, but it's not the same as actually sitting down and playing it and getting your own experiences with it through a first-hand encounter. Regardless, I still want to sit down and play through the game myself. It goes for quite a bit on the secondhand market these days, but I don't care. I gotta get in there. I gotta play it. I gotta start putting some pennies away to save up for it. One interesting piece of information I came across when I found out about this subject and was doing research on it is this blog written by a guy that interviewed Shinya Nishigaki, the creator of Blue Stinger and Illbleed. He talks about a time where he got to sit down and talk to Mr. Nishigaki about his games, his inspirations, his overall life, and the things he went through in his career in games. It's a really good read, and honestly, I'd recommend you give it a read yourself if you're even the tiniest bit interested in this topic. The interviewer even talks a bit about how he tried to push to get Illbleed and Blue Stinger ports released. I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. Check it out. Malice was a 3D platformer about a girl that is a goddess and must defeat the evil dog god to save the universe. Before I go any further, you may be thinking, wait, this game did come out. It had a troubled development history, but it actually made it to store shelves. And yes, you are right, but the release version is not the one I'm here to talk about. That seems to be a theme with this video. I'm here to talk about the original version of Malice that was first developed. I'm talking about the PS1 version of Malice. Malice originally began development in 1998 for the PlayStation 1. It used the Croc 2 engine and featured the titular character Malice as she runs, jumps, floats, and bashes bad guys over the head with her mallet in order to save the forest and the world from the ancient demon spirit that she accidentally unleashed and has now possessed her dog. Looking over the footage of the cancelled PS1 build of Malice looks like a night and day difference from the release version. The game has an entirely different look, atmosphere, design, and gameplay. The game looks a lot more interesting and engaging to play than its released counterpart. Now, I haven't played Malice myself, so I can't definitively say how the game is on my own word, but just from the gameplay I've seen of it, it does look like it's a bit of a bland adventure. The game doesn't look too bad in the visual department, but the overall gameplay that I've seen doesn't look really all that engaging to play. And judging by some of the reviews I've seen of the game, that's exactly Malice's problem. Just tedious, collectathon, mediocre gameplay, stale platforming setups, and mindless combat. It's a shame the final product turned out the way it did. See, what happened is, Argonaut's first publisher, Phlox Interactive, pulled out due to the game taking so long to complete, along with the technical issues, as this was Argonaut's most ambitious project to date. With the then new PS2 and Xbox around the corner, they figured now would be a good time to retool the game for the next generation of consoles. They then created a tech demo to showcase the power of the Xbox after Microsoft decided to pick them up. However, they ran into further issues with the game while trying to develop it for the Xbox. The game was in a messy state and caused Microsoft to eventually back out too. Malice and Argonaut were seemingly in limbo until Sierra picked them up. From this moment, it was actually planned to have the band No Doubt and their music featured in the game. Members would voice various characters in the game, along with lead singer Gwen Stefani voicing Malice herself, but this version of the game would fall through the cracks as well. Argonaut lumbered on, eventually settling on Mud Duck Productions as the final publisher after having been dropped by Sierra at some point along the way. Finally, after all these trials and tribulations, Malice would finally hit the store shelves on June 2nd, 2004, to mixed reception. Not too long after Malice's release, Argonaut would shut their doors and cease operation, taking with them not only the legacy they've built up to that point, but also another unreleased game known as Orchid, with rumors saying that Orchid was cancelled in order to get Malice out the door. If you want to know more about that game, I actually covered it in my first video about this subject. Malice's story is a shame. It's a shame that the game and its developers went through so much to get the game released. It's a shame that the game was a shell of what it was meant to be. It's a shame that this game and various other circumstances led to Argonaut's closure, and it's a shame that we will never get the original PS1 version of this game. As I stated earlier, the PS1 version looked way better and more fun to play. When I look at the footage of it, I just keep imagining what could have been had we gotten that version. It could have gone on to be a pretty decent PS1 game late in the system's life. It could have been looked back on with fondness by those that played it, and it could have potentially been part of great platformers on the PS1 lists on the internet. Unfortunate.
Bonus.
Now, before I head into the final game on the list, I wanted to sneak a little bonus entry in here for you guys. Justice League was a planned action-adventure beat-em-up that was being developed by Traveler's Tales for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. The game was based on the Justice League animated series that aired on Cartoon Network from 2001 to 2004. The game's playable characters were to include Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl, Aquaman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter, along with a list of classic villains such as Orm, Mongul, and Lex Luthor. The game was meant to be published by Midway Games, but was cancelled for undisclosed reasons in February of 2004. What's cool is that John Burton, the head of Traveler's Tales, actually has a gameplay video of this game on his YouTube channel, Game Hut. He plays through a bit of the game's prototype that he has. Head over to his channel and check it out if you're interested. It's pretty cool. For a while, I've had vague memories of watching Justice League on Cartoon Network back when it aired, but it had been so long since I've seen it that I didn't really remember too much about it. A couple of years ago, I found out they had the series on HBO Max, so taking into account my earlier statement, I decided to watch it. And man, I loved it. The writing, the characters, everything. The show was amazing. And whenever I finished watching that, I then went on to watch Justice League Unlimited, and that was great as well. Both of these series are awesome and definitely worth watching if you either haven't seen them in a while or as a first time watch. Anyway, after finishing the series, I went and looked back on this prototype gameplay footage and thought, hey, this looks fun. I actually wanted to play this game, especially after having just finished watching the series, so it's a shame that this game got cancelled. Plus, it coming from Traveler's Tales, it would have been a pretty good game. Now, I know there was a Justice League game that did come out on PS2 and Xbox called Justice League Heroes. It's a top-down beat-em-up game made by Snowblind Studios, the same people that created Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance, and the Champions games. Although, it's more based on the DC comics rather than the animated series. I've never played it myself, but it looks fun, so it looks like I'll have to get my Justice League fix from that game. Wet 2 Double Feature was the planned sequel for the first game, Wet, released in 2009. Wet revolves around mercenary Ruby Malone as she shoots, wall runs, and slashes her way through a web of betrayal as she seeks to find out who set her up on a job gone awry. Wet 2 was meant to be a continuation of Ruby's story, and you were to learn more about her character. I actually just fairly recently played through Wet for the first time myself. I've been aware of the game for quite some time and always had interest in it. So it's been on my personal to play list for a while, and I finally got around to it, and let me tell you, it was awesome. I love the grindhouse style of the game. The gameplay is fun and funnily violent. I love the game's presentation and its aesthetic along with the menu and UI designs. I freaking love Ruby as a character. She is a complete badass, and she's definitely a new addition to my favorite video game characters. Ruby's acrobatics, sword combat, and bullet time gunplay make for a fun gameplay loop, especially once you get the hang of how it works and how to string it all together to make stylish combos. The music in the game is a great selection of rockabilly style music, and quite a bit of it stuck with me even after I finished the game. Wet overall is a really fun, badass game that I recommend to anyone watching this and likes third-person shooter action games. You know, I actually already knew about Wet's planned sequel long before I ever played the first game. Now I don't remember how or how long ago it was when I stumbled across an article talking about this game. Now back then, after I read about the game and looked over the screenshots, I was like, man, that sucks that this game got cancelled. Looked like it would have been really cool. And I was kind of disappointed. But now, after having played through the first Wet for myself,
I'm fucking pissed.
Looking through the available screenshots and video, Wet 2 Double Feature looked like it was going to continue on its strengths of nailing the grindhouse aesthetic. Granted, most of the screenshots are just UI and menu mockups, but it does give off a good idea to what the presentation the developers had in mind for the game. And as someone who loved the first game's presentation, I thought it looked really good. I think they were going to knock it out of the park with a lot of these menu designs. And hey, a good menu design is just as important feature of a game as everything else. The only video I was able to find of Wet 2 was a UI animation design test video. It showcases how the UI animators plan to handle the game's UI and HUD elements. I'm a sucker for cool and thematic UIs in video games, and I really like what this video shows off. If any of this planned design wound up making it into the final game, Wet 2's UI would have felt so alive and even more stylish in comparison to the first game. There's a prototype of the game that exists, but I don't think it's out in the wild. Maybe someday someone will stumble across it on an Xbox dev kit or something. Of all the games on the list in this video, this game and Alice Asylum hurt the most to get cancelled for me personally. Also, fun fact, when I was looking up information about Wet 2, I also learned that there was going to be a PSP version of the first Wet game, but that was unfortunately cancelled. And there you have it. Those were another 6 canceled games that I really wish had gotten to release. A few of these games I had a personal investment in, as I've played the game or games previously released in their series, so I really wanted to see where their respective stories took their characters next. It sucks to build up a vested interest or connection with a game and or its characters, whether it be when it originally released or years later, and knowing you'll never get that closure for them, especially when it was right there on the table. But even with the games I wasn't already familiar with, it sucks to see something that had promising potential to it be taken out before it had a chance to see how it could fare with people. And I think that's kind of the allure and sadness with the concept of canceled video games, being drawn to the idea of what could have been, seeing the potential of something but not being able to experience it for yourself, and watching gameplay or looking at screenshots and your mind starts wondering about what the game could have been like to play. Would you enjoy it? Would it live up to the expectations you formed in your mind from what you've seen? But knowing that no matter what, you'll never be able to get your hands on it. And not only that, but the developer's time, effort, and plan being left in limbo, never getting out to the public. As I said in the beginning of the video, canceled video games are fascinating and sad at the same time. But what did you think about the games featured in this video? Were you looking forward to playing any of these? If you weren't previously familiar with any of these games beforehand, which ones sounded the most interesting to you that you would play? And would you enjoy another video on this subject? There's a lot of canceled games out there, so there's plenty of material for your future video. I'm STEMAC35 and I'm out. Please don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment talking about canceled games and what canceled games you guys find interesting to you, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Peace.